Welcome to Dreamy Detections, a quiet corner for your mind to rest. Thank you for choosing this gentle story as a sanctuary to help you find contentment and ease your way into a peaceful sleep. If this tale brings you comfort, a simple like, a subscription to our channel, or a kind comment is always deeply appreciated. Tonight, we will be visiting the serene village of Hushwood Hollow. Prepare to be enchanted by a place where the air is soft, the cottages are cozy, and the town clock chimes with a curious and comforting cadence. Let the stillness of this gentle world provide a quiet respite and guide you toward profound calm. Chapter 1. The first soft chime of arrival. The cottage welcomed Clara with a gentle sigh of warm, still air that smelled faintly of dried lavender and old, beloved books. It was a small, perfect space, with floors made of smooth, honey-colored wood, and a large window that looked out onto a garden brimming with sleepy daisies and nodding bluebells. She moved with a newfound slowness, unpacking the few boxes she had brought with her. Each object found its place with a quiet deliberateness, a teacup here, a stack of novels there, as if they too were settling into a long-awaited rest. The world outside the cottage felt distant, its clamor and rush fading into a forgotten memory. Here there was only the soft sound of her own movements and the profound, enveloping silence of Hushwood Hollow. Clara felt a comfortable weightlessness settle upon her, the release of a tension she hadn't fully realized she was carrying. Her shoulders softened, her breath deepened, and a sense of profound safety bloomed within her chest. She filled a kettle with fresh, cool water from the tap, its gentle gurgle the only sound in the quiet kitchen. As she waited for it to warm, she ran her hand along the smooth, worn wood of the kitchen table, feeling the history of quiet meals and peaceful mornings that had unfolded right here. This cottage was more than a new home. It felt like a sanctuary, a place designed for the mending of a weary spirit. With a warm mug of chamomile tea cradled in her hands, she settled into a deeply cushioned armchair by the large window. The fabric was soft and yielding, seeming to mold itself around her, offering a gentle, supportive embrace. Outside, the day was beginning its slow, graceful bow into evening. The sky, a brilliant blue just hours before, was now awash with the softest hues of lavender and pale rose. The light that filtered through the window panes was golden and thick, illuminating the tiny dust motes dancing in the air like gentle, silent sprites. Clara took a slow sip of her tea, its warmth spreading through her, a comforting anchor in the peaceful stillness. The garden outside her window was a tapestry of gentle color and soft forms. The bluebells drooped their heads as if in quiet contemplation, and the white petals of the daisies glowed in the fading light. A single plump bumblebee drifted lazily from one flower to another, its low hum a soothing, resonant note in the calm air. Clara watched its unhurried journey, feeling her own thoughts slow to match its languid pace. The entire scene was one of perfect, undisturbed tranquility, a living painting of peace that she could step into whenever she wished. She felt as though she had been here for a long time, her own rhythm already attuning to the gentle pulse of the village. As the last sliver of the sun dipped below the rolling hills, a sound drifted through the open window, a sound unlike any she had ever heard. It was not the loud, commanding bong of a city clock, but a series of soft melodic chimes, as clear and pure as droplets of water falling into a still pool. The notes hung in the air, weaving through the lavender sky, each one a perfect shimmering sphere of sound. There were 7 chimes in total, forming a simple, enchanting melody that seemed to resonate deep within her. It was a sound that did not demand attention, but rather invited a moment of shared quiet. The melody was filled with a gentle, reassuring quality. It spoke of endings and beginnings, of the peaceful transition from day to night. As the final note faded into the deepening twilight, a profound sense of rightness settled over Clara. It felt like a welcome, a lullaby from the village itself. The chimes were not marking the time, but celebrating the moment, this specific, beautiful moment of her arrival, of her finding this safe and quiet harbor. A soft smile touched her lips, and she closed her eyes, letting the feeling of peace wash over her completely. She remained in the armchair for a long while, listening to the gentle sounds of the evening. The hum of the bumblebee had been replaced by the soft chirping of a lone cricket, a peaceful, rhythmic sound that was deeply comforting. The first star of the evening appeared, a tiny, brilliant point of light in the velvety indigo sky. The air grew cooler, carrying with it the sweet, heady scent of night-blooming jasmine from a vine climbing the cottage wall. The cottage itself seemed to breathe around her, a steady, sleeping presence. Feeling a gentle, pleasant drowsiness, Clara rose from the chair. She prepared for bed, her movements unhurried, her mind blissfully empty of worries. She slipped between cool, smooth sheets that smelled of lavender and fresh air, the comfort of the soft bed a final, perfect welcome. The memory of the clock's gentle chime echoed in her mind, a soothing melody to carry her into a night of deep, restorative sleep. Here in Hushwood Hollow, she knew she had found her place of peace. Chapter 2. A Melody for Morning Muffins. The morning sun filtered through the cottage window as a soft, diffused glow, gently coaxing Clara from a deep and dreamless sleep. She awoke feeling lighter than she had in years, as if she had shed a heavy cloak during the night. The air in the cottage was cool and fresh, carrying the faint, sweet scent of the dew-dampened garden outside. For a few moments she simply lay in the comfortable silence, listening to the quiet sounds of a world waking up slowly and without hurry. A distant bird sang a simple, repetitive song, and the leaves of the great willow in the village center rustled with a soft shushing sound that drifted on the breeze. Clara began her day with a quiet, mindful routine. She brewed a pot of fragrant Earl Grey tea, inhaling the comforting steam that rose from the cup. She dressed in soft, comfortable clothes and took a few moments to stand at her open doorway, breathing in the clean morning air. Hushwood Hollow was draped in a fine, silvery mist that softened the edges of everything, making the cottages and trees look like figures in a beautiful watercolor dream. The profound stillness of the village was a balm to her soul, a quiet promise of a peaceful day ahead. Deciding to explore, she followed a winding cobblestone path that led toward the center of the village. The stones were smooth and worn under her feet, and tiny resilient mosses grew in the cracks between them, glowing a vibrant green in the morning light. The path led her to a charming little building with a cheerful blue door and a sign that read "The Gilded Crumb." A wonderfully warm and inviting aroma of cinnamon, baked apples, and yeasty bread drifted from within, beckoning her closer. It was a scent that spoke of comfort, care, and simple, delicious joys. Inside, the bakery was as warm and welcoming as its aroma suggested. The air was thick with comforting sweetness, and sunlight streamed through a large front window, illuminating the rows of golden brown pastries and crusty loaves of bread arranged neatly on wooden shelves. Behind the counter stood a woman with kind eyes and flour dusting her apron, who introduced herself as Mrs. Gable. Her smile was genuine and warm, making Clara feel instantly at home. The gentle hum of conversation from a few patrons seated at small wooden tables was soft and companionable, adding to the bakery's cozy atmosphere. Clara chose a large golden-topped muffin studded with blueberries and sparkling with sugar. As Mrs. Gable placed it carefully into a small paper bag, the clock tower chimed again. This time, the melody was different from the evening before. It was a short, cheerful tune, a playful and light-hearted series of notes that seemed to dance in the air. Clara noticed that everyone in the bakery, Mrs. Gable included, paused for the briefest of moments. A collective gentle smile seemed to pass through the room, an unspoken acknowledgement of the happy little melody that had just brightened their morning. Holding the warm paper bag, Clara found a small, empty bench in the village square, just beneath the ancient, whispering willow. The muffin was delightful, warm and soft, with bursts of sweet blueberry in every bite. As she savored her simple breakfast, she watched the gentle life of the village unfold. A neighbor tended to a window box overflowing with bright pink geraniums. The postman ambled along his route, offering a quiet greeting to everyone he passed. It was a world of small, peaceful moments, each one flowing into the next with an easy, unforced grace. The clock tower stood tall and steadfast in the center of the square. It was made of old weathered wood, and its face had gentle, scrolling numbers. It seemed less like a keeper of time and more like a wise, benevolent guardian watching over the village. Clara thought about its curious chimes, the gentle lullaby of the evening and the cheerful tune of the morning. They were not random at all, she began to feel. They were purposeful, each melody perfectly attuned to the feeling of the moment, enhancing the peace and simple joy that seemed to be the very essence of Hushwood Hollow. As she finished her muffin, she felt a deep sense of contentment settle over her. The morning mist had burned away, revealing a clear, soft blue sky. The leaves of the willow whispered their secrets above her head, their sound a constant, soothing presence. She felt the warmth of the sun on her face and the solid, steady bench beneath her. The simple act of eating a muffin in a quiet village square had become a deeply restorative experience. The clock's melody had been a perfect grace note to the morning, a reminder to pause and appreciate the small wonders that were all around her. Chapter 3. The Clockmaker's Quiet Contentment, a gentle curiosity, as soft and persistent as the rustling willow leaves, led Clara through the meandering lanes of Hushwood Hollow later that week. Her wanderings brought her to a small, unassuming workshop tucked between a bookbinder and a honey merchant. A beautifully carved wooden sign hung above the door, depicting a smiling sun with clock hands for rays. This, she knew, must be the home of the village's timepieces. The door was slightly ajar, and from within came the faint, pleasant scent of cedarwood and lemon oil, along with the sound of 1,000 soft rhythmic heartbeats. It was the sound of ticking clocks. She stepped inside into a world of gentle, orderly motion. Clocks of every shape and size lined the walls and filled the shelves, their pendulums swinging in a calm, hypnotic dance. There were grand, stately floor clocks with deep, resonant ticks, and tiny, delicate mantel clocks with light, airy talks. The combined sound was not chaotic, but musical, a soothing symphony of passing moments. Sunlight streamed through a large, dusty window, illuminating the intricate brass gears and polished wooden cases. In the center of the room, a man with silver hair and a deeply peaceful expression sat at a workbench, carefully tending to the inner workings of a small pocket watch. He looked up as she entered, his eyes kind and his smile immediate and welcoming. He introduced himself as Mr. Hemlock, the village's clockmaker. His voice was as calm and steady as the pendulum swinging around them. Clara mentioned the beauty of his shop and her admiration for the clock tower in the square. Mr. Hemlock's expression softened with a quiet affection, as if she had praised a dear old friend. He spoke of the clock tower with a reverence that was both simple and profound, explaining that his father and his grandfather before him had been its caretaker. Clara asked gently about its unique chimes, about the curious and beautiful melodies that seemed to mark moments rather than hours. Mr. Hemlock nodded slowly, a knowing look in his eyes. He explained that the clock tower in Hushwood Hollow kept a special kind of time. It was an old village tradition, he said, one built on the belief that the best way to measure a day was not in hours and minutes, but in shared moments of joy, peace, and community. The clock, he shared, was connected not just to gears and weights, but to the very heart of the village itself. Here, he led her to the back of the workshop, where a large, intricate diagram of the clock tower's mechanism was framed on the wall. It looked wonderfully complex, yet he spoke of it with simple clarity. He pointed to a series of delicate levers and bells, explaining that the chimes were not automated to a strict schedule. Instead, they were activated by a gentle, unseen current, a kind of quiet consensus from the village. When a moment of collective happiness or profound peace occurred, the clock would feel it and respond with a melody to match. Clara looked at him with a sense of quiet wonder, a melody for morning muffins, a lullaby for the first star. It all made a beautiful, gentle sense. Mr. Hemlock smiled, understanding her unspoken thought. He said the clock's purpose was to remind everyone to pause, to look up from their tasks and share in that one beautiful instant together. It was a reminder to savor the warmth of a fresh loaf of bread, the beauty of a sunset, or the quiet contentment of a completed task. The clock did not tell time, it celebrated it. He showed her the small pocket watch he had been working on, its inner workings a miniature marvel of shining brass and tiny jewels. His hands moved with a practiced, loving care, each movement precise and unhurried. Watching him work was like watching a meditation. There was a deep contentment in his focused presence, a man perfectly suited to his life's gentle purpose. The workshop felt like the very center of the village's peaceful rhythm, a place where time was not a relentless master, but a quiet, benevolent companion. Clara left the workshop feeling as though she had been given a precious gift. The mystery of the clock chimes was replaced with a deep and heartwarming understanding. The village of Hushwood Hollow was even more special than she had imagined. It was a community that had chosen for generations to live in harmony with a gentler, more meaningful cadence. The air outside felt fresh and clean, and the steady ticking from Mr. Hemlock's shop seemed to follow her, a comforting reminder of the village's unique and steady heartbeat. Chapter 4. The Cadence of Belonging. The late afternoon sun cast a warm, golden glow over the village green, where the residents of Hushwood Hollow had gathered for their annual summer picnic. Soft blankets in an array of cheerful patterns were spread across the lush grass, and the air was filled with the gentle hum of quiet conversation and the delicious sense of homemade lemonade and freshly baked pies. Clara sat on a large patchwork quilt with Mrs. Gable and Mr. Hemlock, a plate of sandwiches and a slice of apple pie resting comfortably in her lap. She felt a profound sense of ease, a feeling of being exactly where she was meant to be. She watched the scene around her with a happy, contented heart. A group of children, their laughter as light and airy as dandelion seeds, were trying to fly a magnificent kite shaped like a colorful dragon. It dipped and soared on the gentle breeze, its long tail dancing against the brilliant blue canvas of the sky. Nearby, a young couple shared a quiet word, their heads close together, their smiles soft and affectionate. An elderly man sat peacefully on a bench, his eyes closed, a blissful expression on his face as he absorbed the warmth of the sun. Each small vignette was a portrait of simple, unadulterated joy. Clara took a bite of her apple pie, the crust flaky and the filling sweet and warm with cinnamon. It tasted of comfort and care, just like everything that came from Mrs. Gable's bakery. Mr. Hemlock was pointing out different constellations that would be visible in the night sky later, his voice a calm, steady murmur. Clara listened, feeling the gentle cadence of their conversation wash over her, as soothing as the rustling of the willow leaves overhead. There was no need to fill the silence with noise here. Quiet moments were just as cherished as spoken words. At that moment, the children let out a collective gasp of delight. A strong, steady gust of wind had caught their dragon kite, lifting it high, high into the sky, until it was a vibrant speck against the endless blue. It danced there, free and triumphant, a symbol of their shared effort and simple pleasure. And as they all looked up, their faces tilted toward the heavens in shared wonder, the clock tower began to sing. The melody that filled the air was bright, soaring, and utterly joyful, a peal of pure celebration that seemed to climb into the sky right alongside the kite. A wave of understanding, so complete and serene, washed over Clara. This was the clock's magic. It was the village's collective heartbeat made audible. Everyone on the green paused, a shared smile touching their lips as they listened. The chime was not an interruption. It was an affirmation. It was the village saying, in its own melodic language, this moment right here is beautiful. Let us all feel it together." The music wove itself into the golden sunlight and the happy laughter, making the perfect moment even more resonant, more memorable. When the last beautiful note faded away, the gentle hum of the picnic resumed, but the atmosphere felt even warmer, even more connected. Clara felt a tear of pure happiness well in her eye, and she blinked it away, her smile widening. She looked at Mrs. Gable, who gave her a knowing, friendly wink. She glanced at Mr. Hemlock, who was gazing at the clock tower with quiet pride. She was one of them now, a part of this gentle, harmonious community. She understood their special language, the beautiful cadence that guided their days. As the afternoon began to soften into the gentle hues of early evening, Clara felt a peace so deep and lasting it seemed to settle into her very bones. She had come to Hushwood Hollow seeking quiet, a respite from a world that moved too fast. What she had found was so much more. She had found a new way of being, a life measured in moments of shared wonder and simple gratitude. The curious cadence of the clock chimes was no longer a puzzle to be observed, but the beloved and familiar soundtrack of her own tranquil life. She stayed on the green until the first stars began to prick the velvety deep blue sky. The villagers packed up their baskets, their goodbyes soft and warm. The lanterns along the path began their nightly ritual, lighting one by one in a soft, flowing river of gold, guiding everyone safely home. Walking back to her own cozy cottage, bathed in that gentle, welcoming light, Clara felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. The quiet of the evening was filled with a sense of profound contentment. A soft lullaby-like chime floated from the clock tower, a gentle good night to the village and to her.